At the time of recording, the Folio Society has published only one book by South African Nobel Prize-winning author J.M. Coetzee, and that is this, their 2011 edition of DISGRACE. We get a slipcase which is absolutely in every respect standard Folio Society. So it is covered in plain black paper, it has a white paper lining, it's not super sturdy but it's certainly serviceable enough. More interestingly, within we have this book which is fully bound in this orangey brown buckram cloth, and we see that it's illustrated here, printed on the front board in black and red with a human figure and two dogs, and that's a motif from the novel which will make more sense upon reading it. On the spine we have another small illustration of a figure here, and then we have also the title and author's name. Of course the binding is sewn, and we have these black end bands, both top and bottom, and that completes a relatively straightforward exterior design. I think the design has a certain modernity to it, which I quite liked, but otherwise not too much to remark upon. We get these plain tan-coloured end papers, and then we arrive at the title spread, and we can see here that there will be an introduction by Christopher Hope, and the illustrations are by Andrew Gibson. The first of those illustrations is here on the verso page. I think I'm right in saying that Gibson works mostly digitally, but we can see here the illustrations have the appearance almost of a pen and wash sketch. And I quite like this style. It's a little bit grungy, a little bit distressed. It has these muted colours, and I think that's a really nice fit for the tone and atmosphere of the novel itself. So the illustrations were a hit for me in this particular edition. Here on the copyright page, as usual, we have some production details. We see that the book was typeset in Dante, and it's printed, as is almost always the case with a modern Folio Society edition, on Abbey wove paper. Here's a list of the illustrations. There are 8 in total. And then we come to the introduction. The introduction is erudite. It was informative, enlightening. I quite enjoyed it. It does, though, contain some pretty major plot spoilers that are not particularly clearly labelled. I would personally rather that instead of publishing this as an introduction, it had been printed at the end as an afterword, but I can't fault Christopher Hope's introduction, and that was really interesting reading. And then we come on to the novel itself, so I will leaf through and we'll get a chance to look at some of those illustrations, and as I do so, let me comment also a little bit on Coetzee's novel. So, first of all, one can easily see from reading this why Coetzee might have been considered for the Nobel Prize. It's really a masterclass in economical writing. In very few words, he injects his characters with a lot of vitality, a lot of personality, and there's a lot of depth to the characters. It's really the mark, I think, of a great writer that you can do that so concisely. Almost like when you see a master artist who with just a couple of brush strokes can paint a figure with a lot of life about it. The book in places is quite dark, and yet it also manages to slip in a bit of dark humour here and there, particularly at the beginning. And I also found the plot in general quite compelling. So I read this book last year in 2023, and I would say it was definitely among my top reads for the whole year. I think this copy of the book cost me the princely sum of £15, and that makes this a very easy book to recommend. And I hope we see more of J.M. Coetzee's work coming from the Folio Society in the not too distant future.